Hey everybody, welcome back to our channel. Today's video is the long-awaited everything you need to know about spaying and neutering your rabbits. Now, I get messages and emails on the daily about this. There's so many of you want to go out and do the right thing and get your bunnies fixed, but you're encountering all these obstacles, whether it's affordability or you're afraid of the risk, or maybe you don't know how to find a rabbit savvy vet. So I'm gonna help tackle all those issues in this video. But before we get started, this video is sponsored by Amino apps. And Amino is a mobile network app that has a community for almost any interest you can think of. It's kind of a fun way to unite different people around their fandoms and their passions. What I love about Bunnies Amino is I can surround myself around other bunny lovers all over the world, and people are always sharing photos of their bunnies or drawing beautiful bunny art, or just sharing their advice on different community posts or polls. Now, I'm setting up a blog post on Amino right now. You guys can send us all of your fan art. Lenny and I love looking through your fan art. It brings us so much joy, and we'll probably do polls about what videos you guys want to see next. Now, to participate in Bunnies Amino, all you have to do is download the app, which is super easy. I'm going to link it for you down below in the description and in our pinned comment. It's free, and all you do is you follow the prompts to download for either your Android or iOS, or you can just find it in the App Store and then search for Bunnies, search for our username, which is Lennon The Bunny. All right, so back into the video. Let's talk about the pros of spaying or neutering your rabbit. You're gonna vastly reduce the risk of your rabbits acquiring any kind of reproductive cancers. Bunnies aged 3 and older have a 60% chance of developing uterine, ovarian, or mammalian cancers. So in turn, you're also expanding their lifespan. If you have more than one rabbit, especially a male and a female living together, you're going to prevent unwanted litters. You're also going to reduce aggression between two rabbits, especially if they're of the same sex. This in turn is going to help bond your rabbit with another rabbit if you get it a partner. It also helps with litter habits and being territorial. Now, if you want your bunnies to start using the litter box more diligently, spaying and neutering is really going to help in that department because they're not going to be trying to mark their territory everywhere. It's also going to prevent females from having fake pregnancies, and a fake pregnancy is basically what it sounds like. It's when a female rabbit thinks she's pregnant and she really isn't, so she'll start pulling fur from her coat and building a nest. It's also going to minimize destructive behavior. Now, rabbits are always going to be a bit destructive just because of the way that their teeth grow and their inherent need to chew. But spaying and neutering is definitely going to take away some of that aggression, some of that hyperactivity. Again, they're not going to be as defensive and as territorial. And finally, last but not least, an altered rabbit is not going to contribute to the overpopulation of rabbits. So every year, over 7 million dogs, cats, and rabbits are euthanized at high-kill shelters around the United States. Unwanted rabbits are often abandoned in fields and dumpsters on the streets or surrendered to these high-kill shelters. There just are not enough homes for all of the bunnies. So while it may seem cute to go out and buy a bunny and then breed them and have a bunch of cute more bunnies and sell them off, I mean, think about it really well before you do something like that. Rabbits are very vulnerable, they're misunderstood, and they're the third most surrendered animal in the United States. The difference between a spay and a neuter is basically a spay is when a female's ovaries are removed, and a neuter is when the male's testicles are removed. People tend to get those confused all the time. All right, now one of the biggest myths that I get from a lot of people is they're scared that their rabbits' personalities are gonna change. And actually, rabbits' personalities are not going to change whatsoever because of a spay or neuter. Now, what tends to happen is you'll acquire a baby bunny who acts a certain way as a baby, and then they grow up and they become adults, and they're not quite as cute and fluffy and act a bit differently as adults just because that's what happens when you grow up. That has nothing to do with spay or neuter surgeries. That's why I always emphasize adoption as well. Try to go for the adults who are already potty trained, already spayed and neutered, already fully matured, because what you see is what you get. Whereas with the babies, you never know how they're gonna turn out. But yeah, spaying and neutering is not gonna change their personality. It might change, again, some of the hyperactivity, some of the aggression, but overall, it's not gonna make your rabbit love you any less or anything like that. All right, now what is the cost of spaying and neutering a bunny? Now the cost to perform a spay or neuter is gonna vary, but it does tend to be a bit higher than it would be for a dog or a cat just because it is a little bit more of a specialized procedure. So for a spay, on the low end, you might be spending 50 to 60 US dollars, and on the high end, you might be spending about 300 US dollars, and the low end for a neuter might be about 50 to 60 US dollars as well, and on the high end, maybe about 200 US dollars. And the reason that neuters are ever so slightly less expensive is because it's less invasive, so a little bit less work. But don't let those numbers scare you because, as I said, on the low end, you can get some pretty decent pricing. It's all gonna depend on your location, you know, how good the vet is, how reputable they are. But if you really can't afford some of that higher end stuff, it's very important to connect with your local rabbit rescue, humane society, or, you know, animal shelter. They can usually help kind of hook you up with a low income voucher. There's also a lot of nonprofit organizations that perform low cost spays and neuters. So what I did for Lennon is I got her spayed through the Spay Neuter Project LA, which they no longer do rabbits anymore, sadly. I wish I could recommend them, but it cost $100 flat, which is kind of on the low end. And yeah, overall it was a pretty good experience. It didn't break the bank, so. Now the next question, how do you get your rabbit fixed? I'm gonna link below a list of rabbit savvy vets in the United States as listed by the House Rabbit Society. Bear in mind that there are plenty of other good rabbit savvy vets outside of that list, so it's kind of up to you to do that research, but it's a good place to start. You know, look up online reviews, make sure that they're reputable, they're experienced, that this is something they do on a regular basis. You know, you can call or email the vet, ask them any questions you might have to make you feel more at ease about it. You can also contact your local rabbit rescue or animal shelter because they're constantly dealing with rabbit vets. They're getting bunnies fixed left and right. Every time a bunny gets rescued, it has to get fixed, and they can probably make recommendations as well. All right, so pre-surgical care. Contrary to popular belief and contrary to other animals, you are not supposed to withhold food from the bunnies before surgery, so any vet that tells you to withhold food, that's a big red flag. The mobilization of a rabbit's gut, as we all know, is very, very important. You want to keep that gut moving all the time. You don't want the bunny to go into stasis before, during, or after the surgery. So up until you drop your bunny off and hand it over to the vet, you should make sure that they're munching on hay, that they've had veggies, and that they're using the bathroom. The reason dogs and cats are asked to withhold food is because of the possibility of vomiting during surgery or even after the surgery. But rabbits don't have the ability to regurgitate. So again, very different circumstance. Oftentimes the vet will ask you to bring a bag of their favorite veggies. You also want to make sure that they're hydrated. So while they're in surgery, obviously they're going under anesthesia. The vet's gonna have IVs in them. They're gonna make sure that the rabbit is fully hydrated. They're gonna try to moderate the temperature, make sure that the rabbit isn't cold or warm. And then the vet will stitch up the incision, and usually those stitches will dissolve on their own. And what a lot of vets are doing nowadays is they'll tattoo a little green or blue line as an indicator that the rabbit has been fixed. After the surgery, the bunny should remain hospitalized for the rest of the business day just so that the vet can monitor them and make sure they've woken up from their anesthesia okay. And then you should be able to pick up your bunny at the end of the day. Now in terms of post-surgery care, I actually already made a video on that. That was one of our first few videos that we ever made. So I'm gonna link that in the iCards for you. It's actually a lot of information and quite detailed, so I'm not gonna repeat all of it here. But in short, you know, you really just wanna make sure the bunny is eating, using the bathroom, drinking water. You know, you might have to hand feed your bunny if they're not voluntarily taking food. Sometimes that happens. I had to hand feed Lennon her food, you know, the first few hours. So I really recommend booking this on a day that you don't have to go to school or work, or taking the day off for it, because the first 24 hours are crucial in terms of monitoring the rabbit, you know, making sure that they're recovering. But also you want to give them a little bit of space. You know, don't kind of hover over them constantly. Don't make them anxious. Now the females, because it is a more invasive surgery to get spayed, tend to take a longer time to recover than the males. Usually the males are kind of up and running by the time that they get home, but the females are probably going to be a little groggy, a little lethargic, and that's normal. But when you want to worry is when they haven't eaten or even used the bathroom in about 8 hours. And at that point, you really want to call your vet. Now, if the vet is closed at that point, it's so important to have a backup plan. So talk to your vet about, you know, what 24-hour emergency care they recommend. You know, where do you go after hours when he or she are no longer in the office? And again, I will link the post-care video below. Sometimes bunnies will be given a cone so that they're not picking at their stitches or nibbling on the incision. Lennon never had anything like that, and she wasn't really inclined to do that. But every rabbit's going to be different. If you do notice that behavior from your bunny, you can always ask for a little cone just in case. And of course, always monitor your bunnies in those scenarios, because anytime you're putting anything on your rabbit, you want to make sure that they're safe and they're not going to hurt themselves. There really are no cons to getting your rabbit spayed or neutered. The only con, in my opinion, is, you know, the slight risk of death during surgery, and that obviously applies to any animal, including humans. When we go under the knife, there's always the risk of something going wrong. But sometimes it's a risk you have to take, and you really have to weigh out your options. Obviously, if you have a healthy and happy bunny, especially a young bunny whose heart and lungs and everything is working perfectly, they're gonna recuperate from this in no time. It'll be like it never even happened. That's why it's important for your rabbit to be evaluated by a vet and see if they really are eligible for a spay and neuter. Now, in terms of when, it's recommended to get this done when they hit sexual maturity. So for females, that's about 5 to 6 months of age, and for males, it's about 4 months of age. But I've seen rabbits get fixed at all different kinds of ages. The only time you want to be concerned is when you're dealing with a sick rabbit or an old rabbit who's very fragile. Obviously, the older a rabbit is, the less eligible they become for surgery, just because they're a little bit more frail. So if you're dealing with a rabbit that's about 6 years old and above, then you really want to consult with your vet first. And again, I repeat myself a lot, but that's because I have to. If you can connect with your local rabbit rescue and, you know, meet other people who have bunnies, integrate into the community, it's going to be so much help to you. If something does go wrong, or you're a bit worried, or maybe you really have to go to work, you can't take the day off, but you can have a friend take over the shift and watch your bunny for you. And that's why it's so important to be able to build a support network like that, because, you know, with dogs and cats, I feel like everyone is a dog and a cat, so you can look through your phone right now and call up anyone. You could just say, hey, can you watch my dog? You know, but that's not always the case with bunnies. And I know this is a lot to process, but this is also why I really recommend and emphasize adoption. Just because when you're rescuing a bunny, you're giving it a home, you're doing all the right things ethically, but on top of that, you're already getting a spayed or neutered bunny. So anytime a rabbit is in the shelter or goes to a rescue, they're getting it fixed for you, and it just saves you the whole headache of having to deal with this. So yeah, guys, that's it for this video. I hope it was informative, and I wish you all luck on your spay and neuter journeys. So thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and we will see you all soon. Bye.